And we're live on Facebook. Yes. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Swalif with me, Hamad al Amari, episode 6. I can't believe it's already been 6 months since we started, but it's been great. It's every month we have a interesting conversation about a different topic. And thank you all for joining us, because without the audience and the people who are engaging with us on all the social pages, we would, we're doing it for you, slightly a little bit for us, but more importantly, it's without you, the audience, that we would not be able to keep going. So thank you all for tuning in. Today's topic is something that is quite important. We're going to be talking about the environment. More importantly, water. World Water Day is every year celebrated on the 22nd of March. So we're giving you guys a heads up 1 week earlier so that you can celebrate World Water Day. And let's learn about it together with the main man with me, who coincidentally is in Doha, yet we're still doing this on Zoom. Good evening, Jose. And I will try and butcher your last name, Mr. Jose Saucedo.
That's very good, Hamad. Good evening.
Did I say it right?
Yes, sir, you did. Better than 99% of people here in Qatar. So you did very good, I should say.
It's very close to and how did they pronounce it for you?
People call me, well, most people call me Mr. Jose Saucedo, something like that. So
all right,
it works.
Mr. Jose.
Mr. Jose.
That means almond, I think, in Arabic.
And then I tell people, no, my name is Jose. And they're like, oh, Mr. Hussein. I'm like, well, close enough. I guess that works.
Well, Mr. Jose, Managing Director at the Doha Environmental Actions Project. Now, for those who don't know, and that includes me, before reading everything about you, I knew a little bit about you. Can you just give me a bit of background about what it is and why you chose to become the managing director? Because it is a you did this yourself. This was not imposed on you, was it? Did someone?
That's right, Hamad. Yes, so I'll tell you briefly. So, first of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you to the American Embassy for inviting me as well. I'm an American citizen living here in Qatar for almost 4 years now, and I'm an advocate of voluntarism, of the environment, and among other things, one of the things that I spend a lot of time on is leading the Doha Environmental Actions Project, DEEP. It's a volunteering organization here in Qatar that is advocating for the environment. And as I said, it's on a volunteer basis. I spend a lot of time raising awareness, working with school children, with companies, with anybody who's trying to advance the green movement here in Qatar. And I'm just very happy, very proud of what we've done so far. And I'm grateful that you guys invited me to be here.
Well, it is a pleasure to have you. This didn't, this was part of you for a long time. It wasn't just, you were working in food production and management before that, right? So this was not something that you just you weren't an artist or an accountant who said, I'm fed up. This is it. I'm gonna go and fight about the environment. This has been brewing inside you. Can I say that? Is that factual?
Yeah, you can say that, Hamad, and that is true. I'm an operations manager. I'm an industrial engineer turned environmentalist. But interestingly enough, in my professional career, I worked in the food industry for over 12 years. I was doing a lot of cost savings projects and productivity projects for the company that I was working for. And interestingly enough, 60-70% of those projects were environmental projects, how to use less water, less electricity, how to produce less waste, how to use less packaging materials, how to waste less ingredients, et cetera, et cetera. So, you can actually save millions of dollars managing those resources accordingly. So to one extent, without knowing, I guess I was doing some of that. And just, growing up and living in the US, I've always been very environmentally conscious. I always lived in communities that were very conscious, where everybody recycles and try to do the right thing. We have rules and regulations and agencies that keep everyone in check so that we can preserve and cherish the environment. So I guess that was just part of who I am. And then I came to Qatar, and I was looking for opportunities to get involved, in the community. For me, that's always been important to be active in the community. So I ran into Deep, and Deep was, I joined as a volunteer, and then shortly after I became the director of Deep, and it's been 3 awesome years working really hard on behalf of the environment for Qatar and for everyone living in Qatar.
So that is the first misconception that I had. I thought you were part of the founding, but you came here and you realized, because a lot of the conversation is about, what you've said so far is community and things like that back in the US. My question would have been, when you first came here, what was that like? What were the hurdles that you had to overcome? But then you found that there is Deep. Tell me a little bit more about how that got started and the organization, and where did you find the fit? How was it easy, or was it a struggle to find the people that you're working with now?
Yes, Hamad, thanks. Well, so coming to Qatar was, a big change in our life, coming from the US to Qatar. So once we were here, I started looking for opportunities to volunteer, and I didn't find many places to go, but interestingly enough, I found an article about this group that was doing beach cleanups, and I joined them. And as a matter of fact, I have to say that being part of the movement made my transition into Qatar a lot easier, because I started meeting a lot of people, like-minded people, right away. And it was easy to make friends. And just when you move to a different country, you start from zero in terms of your group of friends and people that you can relate to and have fun with and trust and things like that. So it actually made things very
problem.
easy.
I'm a lone wolf. For me, I just go alone all the time. No,
Yeah, no, for me, I'm very extroverted, so I need people. I need to feel the energy. I need to be around others so I can feed from that energy. And so this made it easier for me.
Is there because I say this because I had to reassimilate here. I am Qatari. I grew up abroad. I had a very nomadic upbringing. It was, moving around and unsettled, and then coming back to Qatar with a wider view of the world, and then coming back here. One thing growing up was recycling. That was kind of ingrained in me. That your plastic bottles, we had to sort. Part of my chores or my home responsibilities was to sort the plastics, and growing up in Ireland, they introduced this tax or you had to pay for plastic bags. So when you go to groceries, you take the bags with you. So you take all these reusable bags, and I remember that, and that was part of me growing up, going off then to university in the UK. That was, it was just kind of plugging back in. Then coming back here, that doesn't exist, so for me, it's like, okay, I hit a brick wall in terms of, okay, I want to be part of something, or I want to push more kind of awareness, or, I guess for me at that point in time, the environment was the last thing I cared about. I was driving a 6.4 liter V8 because I'm 23 and I have a bit of cash. Why not? so, so I get it when you're talking about finding a community, like-minded people and things like that. But you come from a background of, it's not just that, you add value. This is your life. And when it comes from the corporate world, it's more, I guess your job was driven more about the bottom line. It was like, make me more profitable, not let's save the environment. I don't think, is that fair to say, or was it?
Yeah. I think that's fair to say. But however, there's a lot of really good companies that have very strong values and do the right thing, because you can be environmentally conscious and run a very successful business. So I was just fortunate that I worked in a company that was very responsible. And they also invested a lot and encouraged people to be active in the community. So that's where this volunteerism piece also comes. I had really good mentors. All of my bosses were very active in the community. I had good role models. And when that's what you know, when that's what you learn, well, then that's what you do. So
was it easy to mobilize people in Doha for this cause? Did you, you come in, you find these group of people, and you've done some amazing things in the last 3 years. I mean, you had Her Excellency Sheikh Al Mayasa with you a couple of weeks ago, all over Instagram doing the beach clean, and for some, and that is, I guess there's no other kind of seal of approval if you're looking for something like that to mobilize the community and get buy-in from a larger audience. But is that, just very briefly, was that planned, or was it just kind of like, how did that come about, and what does it mean to you, and how does it help deep in moving forward?
Well, it's been an uphill battle, Hamad, to tell you the truth. Everybody agrees with what we do, but what we do and what we advocate for requires change. And we all can agree that we need to change, but changing is not easy, right? So it's been an uphill battle. It's taking a lot of time and effort. I was fortunate that that Deep was already active, so there was a community. I have to say, my friend Jan Brown, she started Deep almost 4 years ago, and I joined around 6 months after that. So we already had a base of really passionate people that were, part of the movement. And then I took over the organization. I gave it, a mission, a vision. I had a different perspective of what we could do with it, and started working on that, and being a really active member of the community was at the center of it. So I started doing a lot of activities with school children, school presentations, and just trying to do the right thing, trying to be a good citizen. It was not easy to mobilize people, but when you do that time and time again, we've done 211 organized cleanups. So that's a lot of cleanups.
I didn't know
that's
that.
That's a lot of people. That's a lot of messages. That's a lot of emails that I personally respond to. And I think, people everybody wants to do the right thing. So we're just a vehicle for people to be able to do that. And there's a lot of people who want to do it. So yes, we've done some great things, but man, we have a lot of work ahead of us, whether it is water conservation or overall, advancing the green movement in Qatar and in the world. It's an uphill battle. So we're happy with what we've done, but we still have a long way to go. And yes, we are very proud and very stoked that Her Excellency Sheikh Mayasa is, picking up the flag. Not the flag of the beach cleanup movement, the flag of the green movement in Qatar, and saying, "Halas, let's do something about it." So
yeah, I mean, you don't associate them with bin bags and pickers. Going to clean the beach. It's a very powerful image. Have you noticed, like, over the last 3 years, is it becoming easier? Have you noticed a behavioral change in people? Is it the message? Has it proliferated enough for you to make it easier to access? Yes, you're working with schools and corporates and members of the community, but how big is the challenge still to go? If we can quantify it.
It is massive, Hamad. It's massive. I mean, it's just, it's an incredible challenge. We've just scratched the surface because we really need everyone to jump on board. But again, it's just like I said, everybody agrees with what we're saying or what we're advocating for, is that sometimes people don't know how to start or what to do. So we put a lot of emphasis on, inspiring people, hopefully, to do what they can, what's within your control as an individual. So I left the US and I left my corporate job and I came to Qatar. I was going to look for probably another good job or start a business or something. All right, that was my plan. And then I started doing this, and I saw the need for more of it, and it started growing and growing and growing. And next thing you know, I said, "Halas, this is what I'm going to do, at least for some time." And now it's 3 years into it, but it's needed now. Although the task is huge, the movement has been growing. If you asked me this question 3 years ago, I would have told you, man, it's very difficult and people think we're crazy and people look at us like, what are you guys doing? Like, why are you doing this? When the answer to us back then was obvious. All you had to do is look around. And
completely. I mean, completely agree. And one thing that is, I'll share this story just out of kind of cultural experience. We went camping with a group of friends, lit a fire, had a nice night, it was great. And the next morning started to get hot, so we're packing to get, we're gonna leave. And I started cleaning up, not just packing. And only 2 people that were with me out of the 12 were actually cleaning, and the other ones were like, "Come on, let's go." It's like, do you want to pick up the rubbish and all the stuff that you've left? I was like, why? It's the desert. I'm like, it's our mess. Like, and that was a long time ago, but now when we go camping, it's very different. It's there's also, because there's fines, but there's also I mean, I remember being part of a campaign about water conservation in 2014, 15, because that was a huge problem. Water consumption here, not just for agricultural purposes, or it was just the attitude towards, I mean, we live in the desert, let's be real. Growing food for us is not an easy thing. The climate isn't, it's not, it doesn't help you grow crops, and it's not made for it, and you get involved and there's a lot of companies locally that are doing research and development and tech solutions and trying to figure out how it's best to maintain. I mean, food preservation, water conservation are 2 main things that Qatar, is trying to spearhead in the region, at least for Qatar, not just in the region, like even for us. And I remember just kind of noticing the change, because the not only was it the campaign, but it was, Kahrama and Tarshid, the water and electricity
company,
really just, doing campaign after campaign, and then laws were passed, and then fines were passed. That's, and I always say, like, one way to get to people is their money, and there were hefty fines, bro. Like, they were, 10,000 reals if your neighbor, if you're washing your car with like not a pressure washer machine, you're just using a hose, it's 10,000 reals. That's 2.5 thousand, $2,500 fine.
Yeah.
So that's a lot. And I feel like with legislation and awareness, there is an element of change, and there's now, in all of the Almiras, you can go and recycle your plastic bottles, and I've been part of the as I don't know what capacity anymore, as a host or a comedian, or I don't know. It's just part of the thing, and it's the World Environment Week and Sustainability Week, and going to schools and kind of being for me, I just want to learn more than anything, and there's a lot I didn't know about what you were doing. And for it just makes complete sense, but the question is, you came from the States, and then you came to Doha, and what is the motivation really? Like, because you didn't come here and just get another job and try and find financial security for your family and things like that. You're like, I'm part of this community. I live here, and I want to, like, what is the motivation?
It's how much, just like you, I have children, right? And I'm doing this for my kids.
Why do you have to bring them up? They haven't, you know what I mean? I'm having sleepless nights because of this is my time to forget, Jose.
Sorry, man, but you asked the question, no, really, it's for my kids, it's for your kids, it's for everybody's kids, and there's a saying that an inheritance is what you leave to your family, and your legacy, it's what you leave for everyone. And I wanted to, it may sound corny, but I wanted to do something good for the country, and I'm not doing it just for the country, but it's for myself, for my family, for my community as well. I want to be a good ambassador.
Was there a trigger moment where you like going camping one day and saw something and you were like, "This is it. I have to." Was there like
So,
what was
yeah. So
like, what was it? Don't be nice.
No. I mean, it was going to the beach. It was going to the beach, and I used to live in Miami, so I'm used to living on a beach town, and so I know how things look like back home. And then I came here and I go to the beach and I saw a lot of rubbish, and I was like, wow. And then I saw a lot of people that no longer see it. It's so pervasive, it's so prevalent that it becomes part of your background. And I think that's why, for me, coming from abroad, it was, I saw things that other people didn't see. But it's not because I'm genius or I have this, gift. It's just that I don't have this. I'm looking at things from a different lens because I'm not from here. It's just the same like when you go to any other place, or you're in a different community, Hamad. I'm sure that you've experienced that through your travels. Is you see things with a different lens. So for me, it was going to the beach and I'm walking around and I pick up a plastic bag and I walk, 50 meters, and the bag is full of trash that I found. And then I grab another bag that the ocean gave me. It's not like I have those bags. And I filled it up and I kept walking, probably a kilometer. I was in Fuerte. That's the first beach that I went to here in Qatar. And, after 5 bags, I was like, wow. And that was a clean beach.
Yeah. Yes. So, yeah, that was a clean beach, indeed.
Yeah, so that got me thinking. I started looking, ran into deep, and then, I said, oh, wow, there's something here. We can actually make a difference here. And if you allow me to go back to your original question as to where things are now and if I've seen a change, 2 years ago, things changed a lot in general for the green movement. I believe it's almost 2 years now. When His Highness the Amir went to the climate change meeting in New York. And all he said, I mean, it's interesting how things work, Hamad. All he said in his speech, that the World Cup in 2022 is going to be the first carbon neutral World Cup in the history. That was it. But interestingly enough, things started to trickle down. The messages in social media, the communication, the conversations that triggered were beyond just, a carbon neutral World Cup. It was all about pushing the green movement forward in the country. So slowly but surely things started happening. More and more people were talking about things. Other groups starting popping up. Schools started getting really active. The Qatar Green Building Council are doing a fantastic job pushing that agenda with the schools. With the green schools and the eco schools and all that. So things started happening and moving a lot faster after His Highness the Emir, talked about that.
Let me,
And now, we're to the point where we have Her
you would
Excellency
take it out of Qatar.
helping us push that message forward
Let's-
even more.
Yeah, let's get out of Qatar for a bit. Let's not be too specific because you have as I said, your history here. You could teach me a lot. What is the problem? So let me put it to you bluntly. What's the worst thing that can happen if I don't clean up after myself outside? How does that affect the environment?
Well, so putting it into the context of water, right? I mean, let's not forget that 97% of the water that we have in the planet, 97% is ocean water. Okay, so only 3% is fresh water, and really, what's available for us to use, Hamad, is 1%, because the other 2% is trapped um, in glaciers and on the earth, and it's other places that we cannot access it. Okay, so water pollution is a big problem. So whether it's because or
There's
landfills.
75 billion people on Earth, or it's more than, I don't know. There's only 1% of fresh water. That we're all-
1% of the world's water, of all the water in the world, 1% is drinking water. So water pollution is a big problem, whether that is your landfills contaminating or polluting the ground sources of water, as to plastic pollution, becoming microplastics and entering the oceans, and then they become part of the food chain, because it's been proven now that even plankton, shrimp, all sorts of animals are eating the microplastics, and then other fish eat them, and other fish eat them, and then we eat those fish.
Hang on a second. Go back to what you don't just don't just introduce a term like microplastics and expect me to kind of go, oh, I know what that is. Whoa, you just said that 1% of the world's water is fresh water.
Yes.
And that 1% is polluted.
No. It's one of the risks. When you said what's the worst thing that could happen, is that if we mismanage what we have, we don't have a lot of water, but if we mismanage it, or if we pollute those water sources, well, then we're in trouble. What's the worst that could happen is that we have to depend
now.
We'll have to depend 100% on desalinated water or other means of getting water, because the supply is limited. The supply is limited, and the population keeps growing exponentially. So it could be a dire situation if we don't take care of it.
So how much of that 1% now is polluted through like human irresponsibility and mismanagement, as you called it?
That's a very specific question that I couldn't answer.
Is it 30%?
No, I don't know, Hamad.
It's hard. Okay, fine.
It's hard to say, but I'll tell you this. Putting it into perspective, though, and making some comparisons between Qatar and the U.S., and maybe that helps you visualize some of the opportunities that we have here.
For us, it's 2.7 million people.
Exactly, right? We're 2.7 million people here in Qatar. But, the average person in Qatar, do you know how many liters of water we use per day?
I don't want to know now, because you're too grinny about it. Okay.
It's because it's shocking. It's so shocking.
Tell me, how much is this? What kind of consumption are we talking about,
though? The water that you and I are using at home, showering, washing our car, whatever.
So
water in the yard.
Not drinking water. This is just
no. Just average water consumption per person in Qatar.
Okay.
So you want me to tell you?
I mean, yeah. Throw it.
All right. So it's 500 liters. It's around 500 liters per person every day.
No way. No way.
Now what the water
500 liters.
500 liters
per person. So in a household of 10 people, That's 5,000 liters a day.
That's what the numbers
Dude,
say.
you're talking to Qatari families. Every house has a minimum of 10 people like this.
No, but you have. So I'll give you some practical examples.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you now. What do you think that average consumption in the U.S. is per person? So Qatar is 500 liters. The U.S.
I'm gonna say less because of your face, the way you're asking the question. I'm gonna say it's 200.
200.
Is it really?
You're right on the money. Around 200 liters per day. So why is this shocking to me? It's like, okay, yes, we use more water here. I have some ideas and some explanation as to why we use more water here.
Please share them, because I would like to know. This is 500 liters of water.
But I'll tell you.
That's almost 420 of these.
Yeah, and we're in the desert, Hamad. We're in a country that on average,
yes,
we get 70 millimeters of rain per year. The US, you know how much rain the US gets per year? How many millimeters? So it's 70 millimeters of rain on average here in Qatar, which is around 2.7 inches.
The US is very different. You have snow.
I know. But that's going to add to the conversation here.
I'm guessing you guys have 3.6 liters.
No, these are millimeters.
Oh, millimeters.
Millimeters of rain. So imagine that it's raining and how much rain it accumulates. Okay. So in Qatar, on an annual basis, you get 70 millimeters.
70.
70. In the US, we get 100 times more. 767 millimeters of rain. Okay. So not only do we get 100 times more, I'm sorry, 10 times more, not 100, 10 times more rain, but the water consumption is almost half of what we have here in Qatar. But as you said,
you guys have more water reserves over there?
As you said, the U.S. is not a desert entirely like Qatar. There's a lot of places in the U.S. that are very dry. California,
from someone who's living here, right? And we get the news, and the last, 4 or 5 years ago, we've been hearing California is dry, and then I don't know what that means. I'm not going to act like I know. It's what does that actually mean if you're telling me that there is plenty of water in the States?
Well, you have to follow the cycles of the water, right? So the problem in California and in other places is that we've been depleting those water sources faster than they're being replenished. So actually, the water reserves,
forest fire, what are the
everything, climate change, erratic rain patterns. We're not getting as much rain as we used to, or you have droughts, extended droughts. You have droughts for 2 or 3 years, and all of a sudden you deplete your water reserves. So all sorts of mitigation activities kick in place. You cannot water your yard. You can, they start rationing the water. So that we can just do the basic things. How bad it was.
It's going to be like Mad Max very soon.
Well, it just, things could happen, right?
Wow. I was not expecting that response.
It's
not going to be Mad Max.
What I'm trying to say is that
owns all the water, and
so to put things in perspective, so one thing very crazy that was happening in California was that there was no water for people to water their yards, the lawn. So a bunch of companies popped up, and they were painting the dead grass green.
That's just California, right?
That's so that your house would look a little more, appealing.
Everyone knows where to make the money over there in California. So that's that. I give them props for that.
But that's just to put things in perspective. So yes, we're very different countries, but the water consumption here in Qatar is really high, Hamad. And I'll give you some practical examples that caught my attention. And some of them are a little funny, but not haha funny, but interesting, let's say. So I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but I have never been, not once, I think, I have never been, or I have never used a toilet in Qatar that I only have to flush it once. You know,
This is a contracting problem, bro. Go talk to the contractors.
I'm just saying, I have
This is not an environmental issue.
Oh no, okay? No, but it becomes an environmental problem because what you want when you go to the washroom, you want to push that button and never see that again, right? It goes away, whatever. You want to use the least amount of water possible.
So there's places. There are places that have two buttons. So I didn't.
Yeah. Of course. Even if you push both buttons, believe me, I've tried.
One's for number one, one's for number two.
I pushed all the buttons, and I always have to push twice, 3 times, and I never have to do that back home. So every time there's a discharge on that flush, it's around 6 liters of water. So if I have to flush 3 times, well, that's 18 liters of water that I use just, going to the bathroom. Or
the acute. Okay, this is gonna start making sense now. 500 liters per person. If it's so, I'm guessing there's an aggregation of problems. It's not just. So can you just what other problems? Is it just bad plumbing or bad distribution or bad architecture or culture? Like see, 500. I can't get it out of my head. 500 liters.
Yeah. Well, you also have to think, Hamad. I mean, I don't know if you in your house, if you have a yard, but think about how many liters of water it takes to water your yard. And if I compare that to a yard in the US, I'm sure that it takes less water just because the US is not nearly as hot, and also because the soil is richer and different. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. But see, this is I understand what you're saying about this, but we do have plants that grow here in the desert, and I think that they are beautiful plants because they've outlived and they've managed to survive in these conditions. And I understand aesthetically you want to have a nice house and things like that, but if you're bringing grass that doesn't grow here and is going to cost a lot more in terms of water maintenance and things like that, surely there's a better solution, no? Shouldn't we start thinking about that? Like, are there laws locally that kind of stop people from doing things in their houses when it comes to planting and agricultural?
Here in Qatar?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. This is something we'll find out.
I'll defer that to you as the local.
We'll find that out because you know what I mean? Everything's important. Everything. But we already have something here that works, like we have our identity from our culture and our earth, it's not like it's when it rains here and you go to the north now, which is one of the best times of the year. I love going to the desert and just chilling on my own in the desert up north, especially after it rains. It is beautiful.
It is green, actually, in some parts.
It's green. It's
yes.
Very green. And it goes away, but it's, for that, it can happen. It does exist. It's not like we have to, you can't just keep spending money on water for grass that's not supposed to be here. That's my opinion.
Yeah. But Hamad, it's not all doom and gloom. There's good things that we're doing here in Qatar, and I think it's worth talking about that.
Please, but you can't just tell me it's 500 liters of water per person. It's gonna be more.
It's just I think it's that we just don't think about it, right? Just like we don't think, when you're brushing your teeth, do you close the tap or not? I don't know.
Of course I do.
When you shower, do you close the water when you're putting soap or do you keep it open? I don't know.
No, I do. I do because they in the campaign that I did, I read the fines. I was like,
So that makes a huge difference in your water consumption, and then everything else that is behavioral, right? You were talking about it. Are you washing your car with a hose every day, or are you actually using a compressor, or are you going to a car wash, or doing something differently, or washing it with a bucket? And we all are guilty of misusing any resource, but I think there's something that we just need to keep working at on our daily activities, on our day to day. But let me tell you a few things that I think we're doing great here in Qatar in terms of water management. Well, now, one fact though that it's important, let's not forget that all the drinking water, or all the water that we get in our houses in Qatar, 100% of it comes from desalination plants, because we don't have enough water for 2.7 million people here in Qatar. So it has to come from a desalination plant. It is actually expensive. It costs the Qatari government a lot of money to produce that water, which actually is a byproduct of energy generation. You have these thermoelectric plants, and you generate electricity, and you have water also as part of that. So, but still, you're using all these, I assume it's gas, fossil fuels to run these plants. And then we use that water everywhere, we go, and with everything we do here in Qatar. Now, the government is doing a great job with the waste treatment plants that we have for water across the country. There's 2 or 3 main ones, and they're doing a fantastic job. It's a state-of-the-art facilities. They basically are recycling the water, and all of that water is being used for landscaping purposes. Fertilizers are being produced as a byproduct of the processes. So there's a lot of embellishment and gardening that we see happening across the country. A lot of the water that is being used for that comes from those plants. And also near the plants, they've created these beautiful natural reserves, you can say, that are paradise for migratory birds and other animals in those areas. So that is working.
Are these the huge wells of water? What is that? Because I still don't know, and I've asked and looked around, and you can see them when you're the last time I was on a plane was a long time ago, but when you're coming in, I thought there was like an oil thing, and they're like, no, those are like, that's for water. I was like, well, they're literally creating massive,
like ponds or lakes, if you wish, which is all recycled water. So then it becomes, it creates a habitat, right, for migratory birds. The bird watching community in Qatar is actually quite active, and there's a lot of activity happening in those places because the amount of birds and wildlife that it's there, it's pretty awesome. So we are doing good on the, okay, we have this wastewater. How do we better utilize that and try to not waste any of it, or as little as possible? But I think the real opportunity that we have is on the input, right? Is all the water that is coming to my house. How am I utilizing it? What am I doing to minimize my usage? And just
aren't there freshwater springs in Doha that we drink water from, or are they like, don't we have spring water? What's the difference between, like, can you just tell me, or the difference?
Yeah. So
we always talk about water in the earth, like the water that we have that's clean valley or clean,
well, that's how people used to live, hundreds of years ago, right? You were in a community and they had a well, and that's how they access water, right? That was a water source for the entire community. And then that water was exchanged with products from people from other villages, and life went on. So we do have those here in Doha, but again, we're in a country where you get 70 millimeters of rain per year. And 100 years ago, how many people?
Can you say that without laughing? It's not like we have a choice. This
No, no,
is,
no.
bro.
But no, no, I'm not laughing. Don't get me wrong. It's just, but think about it. Like 100 years ago, how many people were living here? And we have
10.
2.7
Oh,
million people now. I mean, the explosive growth of the country in the past 30 years has been astonishing, astonishing. Nobody has seen that. In few places in the world have seen that. It just happens to be we're in the desert, right? So that makes this, even more important, Hamad, to advocate for water conservation in Qatar. Isn't water conservation is super important around the world? It is 100 times more important in the Gulf countries or in any country that is a desert, an arid country.
so are we like the formation of Qatar and its cities was from valleys and wells, as you said. Like the main city, the houses. There's wadi, as they call it, wadi. So in Arabic, and where Musharraf is now was it was a valley, and it was people like that area was in Suqwaqif, where if you're talking about 100 years ago or 90 years ago, it was a community that survived there was off of that fresh spring water or well water that was in the ground. Is that completely gone now? Is there
No,
still
no.
there's
There's
still we
still
still have
some. There's still some. It's what the government is trying to do. I believe they're trying to preserve that. They're trying to
okay,
preserve the water table because it's dropped significantly,
yeah.
and that's why we rely so heavily on the water that comes from the desalination plants.
But even desalination, you said it's a costly thing for the government, and it's making sure that we have access to that water is costly. But aren't there environmental impacts to desalination as well? Like even like is wildlife, a fish, for example, are they are there animals and 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 fish, and is it is it harming the environment around us as well, just from the process of desalination, or is that not happening?
I think there's some of that, Hamad. The biggest thing is probably you're burning fossil fuels, right, to run these desalination plants. So emissions going into the air, and then also there's a discharge that comes from the process that increases the salinity of the ocean. So actually, ocean salinization it's a problem around the world, where in some areas the salinity or the percentage of salt that you find in the ocean is increasing, and it could become problematic for some species, depending on the species. So there are some environmental impacts that come with it, but at the same time, it's not like we have too many options as to where we can get our water from. I think that our focus needs to be on how do we effectively use that water. What am I doing to use that water effectively? That's why I tell you about we should simple things that come to mind. We should have toilets that you flush once, that you don't have to flush multiple times. I'm serious, man. Like, to me, it's shocking that I have to flush many times. I have not seen, until recently, I have not seen any waterless mingitories in Qatar.
Waterless.
Waterless mingitories. If you go for number one.
Oh, none. You haven't seen them?
No, no. Well, up until recently. So last week I was taking the metro, and I went to the restroom in one of the metro stations, and the mingitories are waterless.
Okay, so there is
which is fantastic, right? We need more
in the
of
right
that.
direction.
Oh, absolutely.
Good.
If you ask me, I don't know if it's part of the building code, but that should be part of the building code. Every shopping center, every public area or whatever that it's being created should have some of these, if not.
It's a good thing you brought this up, because there's all this talk about, and I still want to go back to microplastics before we go to
yes, we forgot
to Facebook questions and things like that. But there is this movement and I remember the as part of the sustainability week with the Green Building Council, uh, the term um, green buildings. Does that have, is that more of like, is that more about water consumption and isolation, or is it, is it the actual longevity and of the structure and not the facilities? Do you know
No,
much
no.
about that?
Yeah, yeah. So no, so green buildings encompasses everything, Hamad. So even water consumption, energy, everything, utilities. So that's part of some of those standards, So whether it's a GISA certification or what is the other one from the States? I'm blanking out. It'll come back to me. Whatever certification that you're going after, I'm very sure that they have some um, elements that are pertinent to water and energy conservation. So yeah, but the thing is that those are voluntary, so they're not part of the building code. If it's part of the building code, it's mandatory, right? So I think there's opportunities all over the place, all around the world to adopt more technologies or devices that use less water or that use no water at all. In the US, there's malls and shopping centers and other places that have waterless, mingitories. I've seen them all over the place, as well as very energy efficient toilets and showers and faucets and everything else. Um, so, I think there's a lot of opportunity on that end.
Okay, let's go back to microplastics because you just kind of threw that in there and talked about all of our water being that microplastics being eaten by fish, and then we eat that fish. So you just presented this whole cycle of life in a passing comment. Just give me a little bit more information about that before I have nightmares tonight. I'm just gonna.
No, it's all good, Hamad. There's hope. There's hope, but we gotta act. We gotta take action. And just briefly, I promise, I just want to give a shout out to Tashid. They do a fantastic job raising awareness. Some of their programs.
I was with their. That was me with the campaign, Tarshid, my people, and always, always.
I'm telling you, those guys are awesome, and their campaigns are spot on, and they have a very wide network of of people working with schools and with multiple organizations. They do a fantastic job, and they've been pushing really hard lately, for water conservation. If you check their Instagram page or their website, whatever, you're going to find all sorts of information about water conservation, and they have all the tips in the world that you can imagine as things that you and I can do in our houses to lower our water consumption. So just a parenthesis before we go into microplastics.
Let me just spell that out to everyone. Tershid, which is Tarsheed. As you were, Mr. Jose.
Thank you, Hamad. Well, you were asking, right? What happens if we just throw rubbish everywhere and I don't care, right? Fortunately or unfortunately, most of the trash that we are disposing improperly is plastic, right? Plastic bags, plastic bottles, packaging materials from different products that we buy, but it's all plastic.
Straws. There's a documentary I watch on straws, and straws are apparently the worst thing ever invented by human beings. Plastic.
Well, what they say about plastic is that plastic is great because it's strong and durable, and plastic is bad because it's strong and durable. And the problem with that, and also it's cheap, which we all benefit from that. But anyways, but the problem with plastics, Hamad, I mean, plastics are not bad. It's how we dispose of them that becomes a problem, right? If we were disposing them properly, and if we were recycling the way we should, then we would not have as big of a problem as we have. The problem is that we're tossing a lot of it. What is so the problem with the microplastic?
How does it end up like? Is the process? I mean, people burn it, people ship it off in their waste into other countries to manage it. You know, there's this whole waste management, plastics, the amount of documentaries and things that I've seen about plastic being the enemy. But it's this, what's kind of hit a flag in my head is when you talked about microplastics and how that is, you know, it's in the system now. There's no getting away from it. Like it is part of our life now. These microplastics are everywhere. It's in our food, everything we consume. That's a scary thought. And what is the damage of that in the long term on the environment and on us as people? Like that's really the question I have right now. Is this the reason that humanity ceases to exist? Because now this is going to be the most cancerous thing ever? Like, how bad are we talking about? Like, is microplastics, you say it, and then my head goes, wah! So give me some kind of...
No, you know, it's the thing is really bad. And once you see them out in the environment, it's even more shocking. If you're shocked to hear what I'm sharing with you, because once the plastic has been exposed to the sun, to the elements, to the seawater, you know, it degrades. The chemical composition of the plastic changes, and it becomes so brittle. And Hamad, it just, you know, you pick up a bottle or a rope or a fishing net or a plastic bag, it doesn't matter. Anything plastic, a tire, even a tire that has been thrown out in the desert for years, and you try to pick it up and it just breaks down into, it's no exaggeration, but it breaks down into millions of pieces. You cannot pick it up because it's just running through your hands. So that's what the problem is, that these particles are so small that then, you know, they enter the ocean. By the way, every year, 8 million tons of plastic waste enter the oceans around the world. 8 million tons every year.
So with conferences like UN environmental, the COP conferences, and, you know, all of these things, there's governments, then there's businesses, then there's communities, people, individuals, and that's what makes up this whole thing, right? You have, you know, I'll come back to this because you are someone who's lived this. You know, you were part of a corporate world, and yes, you had great mentors and a community that was talking about the environment and things like that. But if we focus on Qatar, do you feel like businesses and corporates are, you know, is there a movement towards, at least for Qatar, from the businesses and the corporate cycle? Because yes, we'd say the government's doing a lot. People can do a little bit more, but we haven't, you know, hit on the corporates yet. You know.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great comment, Hamad, because it takes all of us. We need the government to do their part. We need businesses, you know, the private sector to do their part, and we need to do our part as you know, citizens of the world, right? So yes, I think you know, I think it applies across the board. If I was to say how I see, and this is just my opinion, you know, how I see the green movement across Qatar, I think we're still on the early stages, which is good because we have a lot of room to grow. We just need to make sure that we, you know, that we're at it, and that everyone is doing their part. I think businesses are getting more and more active. I think consumers are also pushing some of those businesses to be more active, but we have a long way to go still, Hamad. And that's not just Qatar, that's the world, or the majority of the world, to be fair. But I'm cautiously optimistic. You can say that the private sector is doing the right thing or trying to do the right thing. A lot of times, though, they just don't know how. Just like us individuals, you know, they think that it's not possible to integrate environmental protection, or, you know, to whatever they do. Or every time they hear about this environmental thing, they think it's additional cost for my business. What I'm telling you from experience, that, you know, where I used to work, we used to save tens of millions of dollars every year, just running more efficiently, using less electricity, using less water. I used to work in a manufacturing plant, in a food manufacturing plant, where or we had our own wastewater treatment plant. And then once we've cleaned the water, there was a golf course right next to us, and they were buying the water from us to irrigate the golf course. So it was kind
Yeah,
of like a
that's
full
one thing. I mean,
circle.
I'm a golfer, and as much as I love the golf course here, uh, you know, I've spent a lot of my years playing there in the summer, and I can tell you, it uses a lot of water.
Absolutely. So now what are some of the things that we can do? Well, there's a lot of things that we can do to become smarter at how we use the resources. And there's also technology. There's new technology. There's opportunity for entrepreneurs who want to jump in and come up with a new gadget or device, or toilet that will use 1 liter of water and you only have to flush it once, right?
Get your mind out of the toilet, Jose. Every time I say toilet, it is frustrating. I get it. I mean, I know you have to look as well. Like, why do I have to look at it twice? Just boom, bye.
Yeah, you want to push the button and forget about it.
All right, let me just quickly check. There's one comment on Facebook. Water is getting more expensive than wine. Yes. Okay, and like, no, there's not a lot of engagement. I just wanted to throw that in. There's if I could ask you to just, from your like World Water Day next week, I mean, I'm guessing that's like that's your Christmas, you know what I mean? That's your Eid, that's your day, World Water Day, World Environment Day. How can people get involved? Are there any activities that you guys are doing? How can people know more? Is this like it's a World Awareness Day? Are there any activities you guys are doing specifically, and how can the community and people, members of the public, who want to know more, get in touch and get involved with you?
Yes, Hamad, thanks for the question. Well, we are continuously doing our beach cleanups that are meant to raise awareness. We talked a lot about it. There's a significant amount of pollution going into what is the biggest source of water in the planet, which is the ocean, and affecting all sorts of marine life. So people can always join that. We do our cleanups mostly on Fridays afternoons, and they're open to the public. Now, unfortunately, these days, given that we're in the middle of a pandemic, we can only take small groups, so we fill up really quickly. But we all are looking forward for better days so that we can go back to doing cleanups with 200, 300, 400 volunteers, whatever is possible. But I think
you did like break a lot of records here, right? You had the largest number ever of people at one place cleaning. What was the number of people cleaning the beach at one?
Well, so the largest cleanups we've done, we had 300 volunteers, and we collected 5,000 kilos of trash in one beach in 1 hour. That was actually during Ramadan 2 years ago. So that was awesome. And then maybe a year after that, we had another cleanup. We had 400 people, but we only collected like 3.8 tons of trash, I believe.
Yeah, because you cleaned it all the year before and people started making less trash, so that's a good thing. You did. It's like, you did your job. Yeah. Mission accomplished.
Yep. So, but that just tells you the magnitude of the problem, though. The amount of pollution that we're putting into the ocean is just crazy. So we invite people to join those activities specific to water conservation. It's not like we can have a drive. I'm all about what you can do as an individual to make a difference. All of us, So think about it. Time yourself in the shower. How many minutes are you showering? Like, I'll tell you, I'm gonna leave the toilet and I'm gonna go to the shower. I take 2-minute showers every day, Hamad. 2 minutes. That's it. And I did that in the US, and I do that here too, but I feel that that's a lot more value. I get more points here in Qatar, because we don't have water.
You
You know,
clearly do. You clearly
so
do. But
what
also,
what
are you like, how many showers are you taking a day? Because it gets super sticky here, bro. Let's be real,
sometimes
man.
sometimes I have to go twice. Yes, yes. July, August, September. Oh boy. Yep.
Um,
So
no, go
so
ahead. You gonna say
no,
something?
no. So it's all about those little things. Really observe your behaviors at home. How do you wash your car? How do you water your yard? Are you overwatering your yard? And I'm not saying don't water your yard, the grass in your house, your plants. No, but are you overwatering it? Maybe. Tashid always tells you do not water in the middle of the day in July, right? Do it
It's
at
good.
night, where the plants and the soil have more ability to absorb the water, and you use less water to give them what they need, right? So it's just all those things. I think it's a good opportunity. Ramadan is coming, so it's a good way for us to just look
Ramadan is
around.
coming means there's gonna be a lot more plastic bottles used. This is the thing. Like, look at. I mean, this is my bottle of water. This is the. I've been drinking out of this. You know what I mean? Water for me is, it comes in that big 5 gallon thing, and I fill it up and I fill it up and I fill it up, and they keep bringing it back, and it's. But a lot of plastic little bottles, these little ones, the ones that are super cute. I get it, yay, but they just keep buying, and there's more and more and more. I'm not saying that they should discontinue, but also from a consumer side, you know, what's wrong with drinking out of a bottle? Buy yourself a bottle or two or three, get a rainbow going, and different colors, one for every day of the week, and fill them up with water. You know what I mean? And I suppose it's like, it's convenient. I'm not gonna lie. For me, go off to camping, I'll buy big two of the big plastic ones, which we'll use again, which is fine. But we also buy the little, big box of 24 or two of them, and it's drinking water. It's convenient, but if it's, yeah, Ramadan, as you said, it's there's a lot more eating involved, and there's a lot more gatherings, and there's a lot more, which is great and fun and a beautiful time. But I guess a little bit more conscious. And I'll leave that to you. That's your responsibility to tell people. Don't tell me that I have to tell people now because I'm talking to you. I'm
Well,
doing my part through
I
this
think it's
podcast.
everyone's. I think it's everyone's responsibility, right? And for me, I do look at Ramadan at a time, where you do more self-reflection and contemplation and whatever you do, and it's just there's never the time is always right to do what is needed on in terms of water conservation, advocacy for the environment, or whatever we need to do.
So, one question from Facebook, and then I'll pose my last question to you, and then we can wrap it after that. Does that sound fair?
Sure.
So, from Elizabeth Yao, besides cleanups, beach cleanups, how can we help?
Uh, well, be a good role model. Make sure that you do what you can, not only in your community, but at work. If you're a businessman or a businesswoman, what do you have any policies in place that support water conservation or energy conservation or reduction of single-use plastics or things of that nature? One of the simplest things to do is, and some places are doing this in Qatar. Um, I know that Qatar Museums is doing that. A couple of universities and many schools actually across Qatar Foundation are doing that. Is getting rid of single-use water bottles. They have water stations everywhere, and people have a refillable bottle like yours and mine, and then you go get your water there. So things like that. Even if you have a small business, and you're calling in a meeting, don't give people little tiny water bottles.
Yeah.
gift everyone a reusable one and put a water filter station in the room, or things like that. I mean, it could be as simple as that, as to you know looking at what improvements you can do in your factories, in your offices, or in your workspaces to to use less resources, electricity, water, whatever it is.
How can people like Elizabeth asking, is the Doha Environmental Actions Project, is there, how do you recruit? Is there more than just volunteering? Is there, are there activities outside? Are you looking for volunteers in your admin? Are you looking volunteers for the community? Are there like, is there, do you guys want to grow within the community, and how can people help the group as well, as not just as individuals, but is your company or your community? Is it an NGO? Is it an NGO that Doha, or is it a?
So we're an online community.
Okay. So
Yeah.
people just reach out online and.
Yeah, and when you ask, do we want to grow? Of course we want to grow, but this is not about just growing big. This, our main thing is to inspire people to take action. We want people to do what they can. We want to show them what they can do if they don't know how, and also depending on who you are and where you are, we want to empower people to take action, because this is not about us growing and having more volunteers. This is all about us being able to reach more people and have more people doing the right thing. You don't have to join a beach cleanup to do the right thing. Just don't litter. You don't have to come to a cleanup, and help. You can recycle at home. You can recycle at school. If your school is not recycling, if you're a child, and if your school is not recycling, or a parent, and in your kid's school they're not recycling, when then your child can be the guy who says, or the girl that says, hey miss, can we start a recycling program in the school, and let them lead that program, or maybe let them be part of the eco club or the eco committee in the school that is going to help advance some of these things.
Cool.
It's all about empowering people to do the right thing, Hamad.
Great. My last question to you is, I did talk about Mad Max earlier, and if that is that a real future outlook? Are we going to get to a point, like, what is the world going to look like in 20 years when we're both in our 50s? Yeah, you caught on that one, didn't you?
You know why I'm laughing, because it might happen sooner for some of us than for others. So I'm like, I don't know.
No, but if we continue, if water consumption continues like this, and littering and not being more aware and conscious of how we behave when it comes to water and plastics, and what is it going to look like? How
Well, I think the outlook is not fantastic, right? I mean, I don't think we need to look forward to see. I think the easiest way to look forward and see where we're going is looking backwards, right? And just, where were we 100 years ago? Where were we 50 years ago? As the population continues to grow, and as we continue to put more pressure on the resources that we have, I think it's going to be more challenging. Now, does that mean that we're doomed? That's it, we're done, we're just going to have to face that reality? No, I still think we can turn things around. And it's not me saying it, like scientists are telling us that by 2050, there will be more plastic than fish in the ocean. And I believe that, if we don't change anything, because I've seen the amount of plastic firsthand. I've seen the amount of plastic that we're putting into the ocean.
Yeah.
That's why, to me, it's super important that we take action, because that's what's going to prevent us from reaching that milestone. If we don't do anything, if we carry on, we finish this conversation, and you and I don't do anything different, then yes, 2050, or by the time we're 50, there will be more plastic than fish in the ocean, period. And I wouldn't be surprised if by then we're gonna. I wouldn't be surprised if by then we're gonna. Some countries might be fighting for water.
Yeah, I mean, I know I make jokes and stuff, but it's my way of trying to get the message across to a wider audience. If it sounds like a lecture, people will zone out. But I've really enjoyed our conversation, and we are both in Qatar. You know where my office is, and if there is anything that I can do, or please let me know. And for everyone watching on Facebook, this episode will be on YouTube and subtitled in a couple of weeks on the U.S. Embassy's YouTube channel. So do share it and do follow Jose and all of his work that he's doing here, and Tarshid, as we talked about. Is there anything that you want to add before we go? Have I missed anything? I've really enjoyed our conversation, but I'm leave the last words to you before I wrap up.
Thank you, Hamad. I just want to thank you and the U.S. Embassy for inviting me. And I want to invite the public, to do what they can to keep Qatar clean, make a difference, big or small. It doesn't matter what efforts you drive; they all make a difference. We are, I am. We're a small group of people. We're a small organization. We're a grassroots organization, and we've managed to an extent to have a very positive impact in the community that can be outdone by anyone who really wants to get after something and just pour your heart into it. So thank you, and we'll see you around.
You're more than welcome. That's it for this episode of Swalif. Tune in next month because we've got bigger topics. They're very, very different than this episode, but they will be entertaining nonetheless. Thank you all for watching on Facebook. See you, Jose, probably in a mall that's waterless. And let's work on fixing the toilet because you brought it up so many times today. Hopefully the next time I talk to you, you'll tell me that you were one step closer to the one press flush.
Push it once.
That's it for me here at Swalif. Thank you, Jose. Thank you everyone for tuning in. See you next month. Peace.
See you guys later.